We are April and Scott, creators of NaughtyGym.com, and this is The Naughty Gym Show.
For years, we've been fitness and nutrition coaches to thousands of people through our commercial gyms and online platform. We've also spent nearly a decade in an ever-evolving open relationship.
This show brings together two of our biggest passions, fitness and sex positivity. Our mission is to maximize the physical and mental health of anyone brave enough to explore relationship structures that run counter to societal norms.
We have demolished our old ways of thinking about relationships, and from that rubble, built a life full of happiness, adventure, and vitality. And now we want to help you do the same.
So hop on the treadmill, start the show, and let us teach you how to never stop playing.
Well, we're excited to host Dan and Lacy from the Swing Nation podcast today, but we've got some new equipment and probably didn't have it set up correctly, so some of the audio is a little dodgy. Scott and Lacy's in particular, but the episode's still a fantastic listen, and we hope you enjoy it, and we'll have the audio issues cleared up for the next episode. Dan and Lacy from Swing Nation has graced our presence today. We actually only live about, 30, 40 minutes away from each other. We don't get to see each other very often, which is strange a little bit, but we also, we all have our own events, and so it's hard to, but maybe we get to see y'all at our little park crawl this weekend. So, and I think you guys now have arguably the largest lifestyle focused podcast in the country.
Depending on the day of the week. But most of the time, It's been that way for a little while.
That's awesome. And I think we're probably number 2.
At least. Yeah.
If I keep making fake accounts, we'll get close to number 1.
Well, we're glad you guys are here. So we're going to talk about orgies today. We wanted you guys to come and do this with us because we went on a dinner date or something. Maybe been a year or longer.
It's been a while.
And I remember you telling us that orgies were your preferred style. And I remember we laughed and said, it's not our style. But we wanted to talk about this topic, but since we've only actually been in 3 different orgies.
4.
Or 4, depending on how you define one.
April remembers each one of them.
I do.
But we know that, so I went back and re-listened to one of y'all's podcast episodes. This has probably been a couple months ago, but you did a recap of your trip to Hita.
Oh.
And I don't remember the actual count, but I actually started counting how many times you played with people.
A lot.
That week.
Almost every night.
Yeah.
And I think almost all of them would be technically considered an orgy. And I thought they had more orgies in a week at Hita than we've ever had in 9 years.
We've gotten to the point now where we're doing like 2 orgies in one night.
Sometimes.
Like we'll go back on playing real, and then we'll leave, and then we'll like regather in another room. It's like the second round. So yeah, we like some orgies. That's for sure.
All right. Well, so let's start by defining what an orgy. We think our definition of orgy. So, how do you define?
I would consider it 6 or more people.
So not 5.
Oh, I don't know.
I would say anything more than 4.
Yeah.
But 4 is just like a full swap. I mean, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So if you have 2 couples in a unicorn, that's an orgy. Or 2 couples in a single male.
I would say the same. It'd be interesting to ask somebody that's not
In the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, would they say, like, to them,
Probably.
4 would be a monster.
Right.
Yeah.
Before I was in lifestyle, I would have thought like 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait a minute. What? That actually brings up, what's the biggest number?
I don't know. Well,
Probably close to that, to be honest with you. I mean,
if you're asking how many people like we've had sex with in an orgy, that we could probably figure that out. But as far as like how many people are on a bed or in a room,
oh yeah,
especially you start talking about like bliss crews and stuff like that.
We tend to go to like the big middle bed, and so there can be like so many people that you don't know that you don't engage with, but they're still technically
There.
part of it. Yeah.
Sex, yeah.
All right. Well, for the sake of this podcast, we're defining an orgy as 5 or more. Right?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Is it? I'm assuming it still is your preferred style, right?
Yes.
Why?
Because you get to fuck more people. It's like I'm selfish, like I enjoy like one-on-one with a couple, and that's fine. But if you could sleep with 5 people, that 5's always better than 1. Yeah.
Well, I think so I really think for what it is, why it's our normal way of engaging is because we're at a point now where we've been doing this long enough. We've had our events. so many people that we are friends with and connect with come to our events. Almost like we don't have time to
do the
right.
to
It's
do
like
it.
right. It's like there's 6 couples here that we haven't seen forever and we'd like to engage with. So if we are only somewhere for 2 nights, we don't have time to engage with them all individually. So it just makes more sense to us all to go to a playroom and just enjoy each other.
But if you were in a 20-day vacation,
We probably still have orgies. But we might get some alone time with a few of the couples. Yeah.
So you're still
Yeah, but like there's been times where we've like really had a vibe with a couple and like plan time outside of the orgy too, so that way we can really focus and enjoy
And
it.
I'd even say a lot of the one-on-one time we plan is with couples that aren't comfortable with orgies, right? So it's like
the lifestyle, then they're not just like you said, they're not super comfortable.
So would you say most of the time when you're having these orgies, it's already with people that you've already connected with? You already know they're part of your friend circle.
99.
You don't see them every day.
Sometimes there may be 1 or 2 new people that just decided to come with us that night, but the core of the group is people that we know and are comfortable with.
I think that's happened because the podcast has gotten so big and our events are so big that it's hard for us to like meet a couple and sit there and spend like an hour or 2 getting to know them. We don't have that time. Now, I wish that we did, but it's super hard.
Yeah.
So the good thing about having like a built-in friend group is at the end of the night, they're all going and we can just kind of like
jump in.
And if there's some hot new people that they've met, they want to invite, they'll come too. I mean, so it's just kind of nice that we have that.
yeah, after you start doing, hosting events like we all do, you start to really appreciate the rare times you get to go to an event and you have no responsibility. And you can just relax and drink. And it almost feels weird after a while, like, I should really get up and help. Because I'm not doing anything but just talking to people. And it's nice. And honestly, I think the last official party that we went to with no responsibilities was a party you guys had at Red Room.
Red Room, yeah.
We just sit there and talk to people.
And it was Halloween last year?
Yeah, it was your
We've actually had the opportunity the last few times to do that, but we've had to purposely not work. We've had to say like we paid our own tickets, but then they're like, hey, why don't you bring your merch? Or why don't you get someone like,
you guys want to host a pool party? It's like, no, we don't. Don't want to.
You already have that entrepreneur mindset. It's hard to say
it
no
is hard
because
to
you
say no.
are just used to jumping in and giving a helping hand.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about orgy stuff. So,
Well, can I ask a question real quick? Okay, so have you ever been in a situation in an orgy, like, you have your friend group, they invited somebody where you didn't want to play with somebody that was in that group that actively wanted to play with you?
Yeah,
How do you handle that?
that's like question 8.
Oh, sorry.
It happens all the time, to be honest with you. Especially for me. I think I'm more picky than Dan is. I mean, Dan's
Probably fair.
It's
Probably fair, yeah.
I say the same thing.
I have another thing I heard you say. I guess it will happen.
And so I particularly feel like this happens to me often. And I really had to find my voice in the lifestyle. And especially in orgies, if you're not good at saying no thank you, you'll probably very much struggle in orgies. You probably don't need to put yourself in that position. I had to learn it because prior to being lifestyle, I never really was like naked in a bed with people that I didn't want to fuck.
Right.
And so it took me a little while. I probably played with a few people that I probably didn't want to in the beginning because I just didn't feel comfortable. And so I've just kind of had to learn, I'm good, thank you. Or I'm really good at like removing myself from a situation. So if I see someone, I'm just like very aware of who's around me. And if I see somebody edging to me, I'll get up. I'll get a sip of water. I'll take a drink.
Reposition yourself.
And I go sit where I want.
Where you're comfortable.
Yeah. Or if I'm like finishing up with one person and I see that person come, see them walking over, I'll get up and like, come here. You're just somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to learn that.
Right.
I think that's the part that, or at least one of the things that it's the reason I don't like it, because it's hard for me to balance I feel responsible sometimes for making sure, even in a foursome, that everybody is, all boundaries are being respected, that everybody's getting what they want. And then when there's 10 or 12, I'll sometimes just get locked. And go like, I don't know who to touch next and what I'm supposed to do. And when you start thinking as a guy, your equipment starts to fail.
Yeah, I think though, if you're in a situation like Dan and Lacy are talking about, where you've already played with these people before, so you kind of know what their boundaries are, that would be an easier flow. And I can think of one orgy that we had where it was like that, where we had already played with these couples before. And so it didn't feel as like so much anxiety or like, who's going to touch me? Or I don't want that person to, I don't want to play with that person. So I have to say no. Cause I think both of us can kind of get in our head a lot, but
yeah, we don't do it every time, but we really try to do that. Like as we're entering a space and getting ready for an orgy, do that, like stop for a minute, do that little circle of trust or whatever you want to call it. I've heard it called a million things, where everybody just kind of says, hey, this is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I'm not comfortable with. Hey, and me or somebody usually will say, hey, before you touch somebody, make sure you ask if it's okay. Nobody's obligated to play with anybody here. And just kind of like set that ground rules first. Right. And that way everybody that's there is kind of like knows what to do and is on the same page about what the rules are. And then it seems like that helps everything go smoothly from there.
How would you handle somebody, like, say you're in a club and your friend group, you're all having an orgy, like a single guy comes in and just tries to jump in?
That's happened. We'll just say this is a private thing.
Okay.
Thank you. We're okay right now. And anybody will say it. And we're also really good about, like, even if, like, let's say I want to fuck someone else, I'll say, Dan, is it okay if I do this? Or Dan will ask, like, me if it's okay if he just, and we've had attendance.
Wait a minute, somebody that wasn't already.
No. Even when we're in an orgy, like, we're in an orgy and I'm about to fuck your wife, I might say, hey, Scott, I'm about to fuck your wife. Are you okay with that? So April, are you okay with me?
Yeah. Open communication.
And we've had attendants, like, multiple times say, that is, like, the coolest thing
we got done fucking, and like the person that's there watching has been like, you guys did amazing, like your communication was so good. It's like, well, thank you.
For me, like, if he looks at me, it's like, can I fuck her? It's like, it's almost like he's giving me back the power. It's like and that turns me on. So it works because everybody feels comfortable. Then it also like turns me on. So it kind of benefits everyone.
It's a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we talked about this last night.
I think I might want to have an orgy again.
I always think that's the problem. Every time it gets presented, I'm like, I think I would like to do that. And the problem isn't the idea of it. It sounds great. Like the last one we had was the two couples were very attractive. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like it was bad. It's just, the part I enjoy the most is like the eye contact, deep, like sort of take your time. And I don't like feeling, should I move on now? And I'm giving her 10 minutes.
Scott wants to hear Marvin Gaye in the bathroom.
Yeah. I've given her 10 minutes of all I got. Now it's time to move on to the next person. I don't know. I start thinking.
I think you just do what feels natural. Yeah. Like if you want to just fuck the one person the whole time, then you
Yeah, we've done that too. Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, until she taps out. Like, can you shake?
What if you there's a person in the orgy. So we do weekly live sessions on our community platform, and last night was orgies. And somebody asked the question, like, what if there's 9 of you? Or I don't know, it could be an even number. And everybody starts to play. But the one person you're not interested in, the only one that's not currently being played with, them kind of look at you like, How do you handle that? Or, I mean, maybe that doesn't happen.
You just walk.
Lacy would sit on somebody else's face.
Yeah. A lot of these things are like overthinking it.
Yeah.
You know, you just kind of, think about it. It's usually like dark lit. There's a lot of people going on. I was just like, get something out of my bag.
I think most people
go sit on someone's face.
Just to take a seat here.
Yeah, I just am always mindful of especially like if there's a difference in a private orgy or in a public.
Right.
But I feel like I'm always watching around me. I'm also keeping an eye on him. So I just kind of put myself in that. Or if let's say Dan's the one we want to lean out, I just go to you.
Right,
look, you know.
Well, you said something earlier about learning to use your voice.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing in the lifestyle, especially for women who have got to be kind of people pleasers and not say no or not ruffle feathers, that if you are a people pleaser, that an orgy may not be the best situation for you if you're not able to actively say, no, thank you. Yeah. I'm not going to.
It's hard. It's really hard. And it's hard because you don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Right. It's vulnerable. You're all there naked, exposed, and now you're telling somebody you aren't into them.
And as many orgies as we've done, I still currently am struggling with, if it's somebody that I'm really good friends with, I don't want to.
Right.
I still struggle with that. Those are the ones
we have to.
that I can't look at and say, no, thank you. Those are the ones I just kind of accidentally walk away to the other side. You know? Like, it hurts me. I don't, and the truth is I should be open and honest and have those conversations. But the reality is those are harder than I want to admit.
It's harder with people that you really, truly love and really, like as friends, to say no to them than it is to people that you don't love.
I've also gotten to know people that I didn't have any interest in fucking, and then I've really gotten to know them, and I've watched them engage with other people and be so respectful, and especially I could think of one guy who he just always kept his distance from me. He was not overbearing. He never tried. He just always stayed back. He kind of let me. And eventually I finally got to the point where I was, because he was so respectful. It was sexy. That he was so respectful. Where on the flip side, another guy is sitting there chomping at the bit, waiting for somebody to move.
And you're like, whoa.
Yeah. I'm like, no, that's too much. So I think it can get better if you.
I totally get that.
Well, there was one show, I think, Lacy, you asked Dan the question. I don't know exactly how you worded it, but at a typical lifestyle event party, I don't know if y'all remember this. Dan, what percentage of the women there would you like to fuck? And I was like, oh, that's a great question. And I was thinking, and I know what your answer was. So I went back and checked the other day.
I wonder if it's the same. Because I don't remember what my answer was. I'd probably say 90%.
I was like, 80%. Ran off the road.
But I also said, I think Scott probably would too.
Dan loves the ladies. And for all different reasons.
Yeah, Scott does too.
Yeah, but
he doesn't really have a type.
Neither does Dan.
Scott's type is a woman who is actively paying attention to him and flirting with him and engaging with him.
Oh.
Well, that's a requirement.
Dan just likes feminine. He doesn't even have, they don't even have to really flirt with their brain. They make and he's like, okay, let's go.
Well, when you said,
I'm not arguing.
Well, I was anticipating your answer when she asked that question. I said, I bet his number's going to be high. It's going to be 1 out of 3. And you're 80%. I'm like, oh my God.
He literally came home and he's like, we have listen to this episode. If you haven't listened yet.
Because
I don't even know what podcast that was. We've done so many. So
I don't know what the episode was about. I just remember the question because it shocked me so much. But not because, I guess in some way I can look around and think of the women here, there's a lot of them that I would potentially be attracted to, but I could never say 80% until I've talked to 80% of them. For me, I have to have a conversation. I have to gauge whether I feel like there's some sort of magical chemistry or something.
But sometimes magical chemistry can be fun too.
Well, I'm the opposite of you, right? So here's, I guess my take, why I'm 80% is you have to give me a reason not to want to fuck you. And so I'm entering the situation as I want to fuck you. And then unless you do or say or do something that makes me say no, that's
their game to lose.
Right, yeah.
Balls in your court.
So you're going in there saying you have to give me a reason to want to fuck you. And mine's the opposite.
You got to give Scott a reason to want to fuck you. I got a reason not to.
Right. Well, we're the opposite.
I'll just sit at y'all's next party.
Yeah.
And if I turn anybody down, say, I'm not interested, but Dan does.
If you're you need to really go.
Do you think you know Dan's type? Or, well, apparently it's everything.
Yeah, I do. I think so.
I still have it.
But you don't know mine.
Well,
mine is all over the place.
Mine is too.
Yeah, I think mine is too. And I can't.
No, it's not.
Yeah, but you accuse me of a type that does not fit. She's always accused me of liking petite women, as she calls it. But then I say, well, what do you mean by petite? And basically the definition is anybody shorter than her, which is
smaller than me.
Which is 90% of the 80% of the population.
So, but do you have an insecurity about your height?
No, that's not it. She just mislabels.
Is it because you're tall?
A little bit because I'm tall, but it's also because every woman that he's ever super been into is petite.
Yeah.
That's not true either.
He likes the pixie girls.
Yeah, sure.
And that's okay.
I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying I like all sorts of.
You like tall, skinny, short.
Yeah. Now I actually probably would feel a little awkward, like if a woman was 6'2" or something, and I was having to get on my tiptoes to
I'd
kiss her
climb
or
like a
something.
tree.
Well, but I mean, I've never actually.
But I have noticed. So Lacy gets the most insecure or jealous of women that she thinks are the opposite of her.
Yeah.
And if she sees me very attracted to that, it like triggers something in her because she's like,
yeah, that's a
what? That's not me. Why are you into that person?
Can't provide that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's also the reason why we're doing this is so that they can have variety, but it's also the same thing that triggers in us all of our insecurities.
Yeah, well, that's true because I know for April, the thing that is a huge turn on for her is like a guy that's 6'4" and built like him, and I can't be that.
Yeah.
In my mind, wants to say, okay, I want you to have that. I've never really seen it happen, but I know that when it does, it'll be a struggle. I won't say no, but I'll have to do some
soul searching.
Yeah, I'll have to manage my emotions through that process. It's not easy.
Yeah.
All right.
We got off topic.
A little bit.
It's okay. It's still good.
We're going to circle back to the
I don't know where we're going. Lacy, do you think it's easier to navigate an orgy being a bisexual woman, straight man? Because in a sense, everybody in there is on the table for you.
No, because there's
That's
a lot
not
of
true.
women I don't want to sleep with.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the word, like, bi-curious, really, because you don't call a straight guy who only wants
Straight curious.
Yeah.
Right.
Girls there, and I might want to sleep with one.
Right.
And I don't want it to be assumed that just because I say I'm bisexual, that it's a free for all.
Right.
And I think a lot of times girls, and I do this too. We think because we're bi, like it's okay that we can do these things. We've been taught by society that being bisexual for a female is fun and great and sexy, and you can do it. But I still want people to ask me, and I still don't.
And we see that all the time. We see girls that do things to other girls without asking that if a guy did that, it would be a huge problem.
Yeah.
But because it's another girl,
They think they have permission.
being the aggressive one, it's not as big of an issue.
Right.
If a guy did that to the girl,
Right. It would be huge.
or if it's exactly analogous.
Right. There would be a fight or
If
they'd
a
get
guy
kicked
did that
out.
with
Or,
another
you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if a guy did that with the other guy?
Yeah,
Like the
go.
rules.
Right. Well, I would
That was-
also say there's a lot, like, I agree with you. I don't like bi-curious. But I also don't like women who are performing bisexual.
Yes.
You know, they're just doing it because either their husband's into it. We've run into that a lot where their husbands are kind of pushing them to do that. And because I am bisexual and I really love being with women, you can spot it.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to interact and it's uncomfortable sometimes.
I feel like I've been like almost accused of that because there's not
Accused of what?
of like being performative for it. No, probably on OnlyFans. I probably am.
Well, of course.
Because, it's
Well,
what
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
But as far as like in a play setting, there are some girls that I ain't super into. And you can go away.
Right.
I won't touch a girl at all.
Yeah.
And so I think because of that, it's almost like assumed that that's the reason.
Right.
But I'll be honest, Dan even does this to like get the party started. He's like, why do I kiss?
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't do that to me.
I don't want to kiss her.
Like it, but I don't want that.
Right.
Like that.
You want it to be
feeling.
organic.
Yeah.
You don't want it to feel like now I'm the circus act. I've got to make
he's just
this.
trying to get the party started.
Right.
You know, he's like, okay, do something, you know, so, but.
Yeah. You understand where it's coming from, but it still can feel kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
You don't think so? This is a question I asked earlier tonight. I have no data to support this.
Okay.
I have a theory that people with higher sex drives gravitate towards orgies more so than people with maybe lower. Like I've heard y'all talk about on your podcast before. When things are running smooth in your life, I know y'all are going through some tough stuff. You have sex close to every day.
Yeah.
We don't, even when things are going great. I mean, we feel like we have a great sex life, but the frequency is not every day, even at peak time. And I wonder, and it feels like to me that the people that I've met that are really into the orgies, so they get to a party and they start then trying to orchestrate the groups to get together. probably play at almost every party, and probably have a lot of sex at home. But I wonder if that's partially it. Like, hey, I just have this huge sex drive. I like having sex all the time. So yes, orgies, I get to play safe.
Yeah, well, and
the funny thing is, this is a little sidetrack, but I almost feel like we're not usually the ones having the most sex at our party. Like, we have friends that they'll have 3 or 4 in a day, and we're like, what are you doing? Like, how do you do that?
Are they any of them 52? Because
Probably, yeah.
daytime orgies and then nighttime orgies. My vagina would fall off.
It would
To be
not
real
be in
careful
good shape.
and stuff like this. So like how to pace
Especially like a Hito or a Bliss Boost where you got a week long. You know?
Yes, you'll be sitting on ice packs.
Yeah, I've done that. But I think there's probably some truth in that because why fuck one person when you can fuck 5, and that's kind of like our orgy thing. But also people that maybe you really like a connection. Maybe it's like deeper meaning for you, whereas it's more of like extracurricular activities.
Right, just fun.
So it's kind of like a different like outlook. Yeah, and it's neither one is right or wrong. It's just two types of people.
Yeah, and nothing we say, I hope that anybody listening, nothing that any of the 4 of us say is meant to say that orgies,
this is right.
Orgies are great in the best way or orgies are the worst way. It's just whatever works.
Yeah. Well, and we have a lot of Naughty Gym members that have never had an orgy but are interested in having an orgy. So just kind of giving them like some insight on like how to navigate them and like what happened. Like our first one, we just kind of accidentally ended up in it,
and it was your fault. Somebody had a Sibian.
She's welcome.
Right. You're welcome.
Somebody had a Sibian, and they this was in a small.
We have one at our house. If you need
this. And they said, hey, we brought a Sibian. This is in Mexico, like a house party, like 8
villa
couples. Yeah. And anybody want to try it out? And before the sentence was up, people's hands.
I was like, yeah, I've never done that before.
So I was like, okay, well, let's go. So we go and follow that couple. Well, then everybody else exits the pool behind us. And so all of a sudden, what we thought was going to be her trying out a Sibian was 14 people watching her try the Sibian. That then turned into an orgy. And we never had that conversation like, hey, well, we
were brand new to the lifestyle. And so we were like, what is it? Oh, this is what an orgy.
Well, that's honestly probably like that's like fairy tale land. Like when all stars align. Like it's not normally like I think when people think of the lifestyle, they think of stuff like that. Where it's just like natural and all of a sudden people start ripping off clothes and they start kissing. And really our orgies look more like, hey, we're going to the playroom at 12. If you want to go, meet us there. That's kind of like ours are very much like.
And you're not going up to just random strangers. Yeah. You're going up to the people that you know that you've already connected with. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I will go up to random strangers with a Sibian. With a Sibian.
We know Dan's in your life.
Next for the Sibian.
Lined up.
Well, that first one just sort of materialized around us. Yeah. And I have never had my dick shrink to such small. I was petrified. I didn't know if she was happy with what was happening. That was the first time I've ever had an issue. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it was so embarrassing. And, after that, I started researching, and that's when I got Trimix. Make sure that never happened again. Mm-hmm. Because I was excited. Because, oh God, we're in an orgy. I just realized we're in an orgy. And, that had been, at that time, was a big bucket list thing. We'd never done it. I wanted to do it. And then I couldn't participate. Yeah. I was just kind of sitting on the sidelines. But anyway, that's a tangent.
Yeah, but that happens.
Yeah, I was about to say.
More common than not.
Yeah.
I would say in just about every orgy situation we've been in, there's almost always at least one guy who's struggling.
Yeah, which is another reason why to do an orgy, right? Yeah. Because then you don't have the one guy in the corner with the 3. Now you've got the wife and the other couple sitting there playing, and the husband's like, what do I do?
Right.
That guy, like, let's say it's Dan, whoever's with him, he just like start going down on her while other things are happening. Right. And then usually, and I don't want to speak for you, but I just know you, the less he thinks about it, the more it'll come back. Yeah, and so when there's so many people around you,
right. The worst case scenario is like 3 girls come over and like, let's help you get hard. It's like, no.
Yeah.
I do not want everybody in this room looking at my dick.
Definitely in my
Keep going, keep it. And I'll sit over here for a second. I promise you, it'll be fine.
Keep an eye on me.
Yeah.
Come back when you see me.
Yeah. How common do you think it is do you think it is common for men to actually finish in an orgy?
Very, very,
Rare.
rare. I would say in our play style that we do in our life, very few men finish.
Yeah.
It's been
You think they typically go? Why do you think that is?
I honestly, as his wife, we don't have a boundary against him finishing, and usually he'll look at me like, "Is this okay?
Right.
Are you going to lose your shit on me if I do this?"
I'm about to come and hurt. Is that
right? Yeah.
Or I'll look at him. I'm going to come, and she'll be like,
Sometimes I'm okay with it. If it's in the night and I'm checked out, I'm like, let's finish.
Yeah, because I'm not doing it. It's not.
Well, sometimes she'll grab one of the other girls and be like, "Make Dan come," so we go to bed.
What would make you say no? Like, what is it?
She wants more sex.
Or I want to reconnect.
Yeah,
because I genuinely
We've done that before.
I love at the end of the night going back, and it's kind of like our reconnecting time. It's just I don't know. It's just and even if I just jerk him off, it's just something where we're reconnecting. It's not like we just go to bed. I roll one way.
It's almost more of an emotional decompress than a sexual.
Yeah, but times. He does still come occasionally. It just kind of depends, and I feel unless you're a repeat comer. Because some people will come and come and come.
We talked one time. He came 5 times.
I've had 3 in a play session, but it's I normally don't.
And then he was like, "You don't get to touch me for a month."
Yeah. So unless you're like that, most guys have fun.
Right. Yeah.
I will say, I think it's one that anxiety of there's so much going on. It's hard to concentrate. It's hard to relax. I think 2 is most of the men are using some kind of Viagra or Trimax or something like that. For me personally, it makes it harder. Then you mix in alcohol and all that stuff with it. It's not the ideal scenario to have an orgasm for a guy.
Other party favors.
Right.
Yeah.
So amplify some of the sensations.
MDMA, Molly, all that stuff will inhibit an orgasm.
What are some of the? It's easy to imagine the pros to an orgy.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the cons you guys? I know you like them, and overall it's a positive experience for you. But there's got to have been some.
Oh yeah.
I think one of the cons is we've kind of talked about it is you're kind of always on guard, right? So you're watching your partner, making sure she feels comfortable. If you're in a closed orgy but in a public space, you're kind of always making sure strangers aren't coming in and groping people and grabbing people. So you're never fully relaxed and immersed in the situation. You're always kind of in some ways on guard. Now, if you're doing it in a private room as opposed to a playroom, I think you can be a little more comfortable.
As long as you're comfortable with everyone.
Right, but then you're still keeping at least an eye on your partner and stuff like that. So I think the more that's going on, the more distractions there are from the actual sex.
Let me comment on that. Do you think you would be more comfortable, if I wasn't in the room?
No. I would say it depends on who I'm with.
Let's say you're super comfortable couples.
Oh no, it wouldn't matter if I would love. I would definitely.
This seems like a
no. I'll just be more comfortable with you.
I could see a scenario, and I love you.
Oh, I know where you would be more comfortable without me.
Well, but no. My ideal situation would be obviously for you to be there. But you not being there
eliminates the distraction.
And eliminates all of the things I'm typically worried about.
Right.
Is she okay? Is this guy touching her?
Which is the same reason that we have talked about separate dating. Yeah, that same reason.
Yeah. What's something that's going wrong?
Well, so another con, and we can get about that next, is it makes the hygiene portion a little, right? So I have sex with one woman. I now have to take a stop. Right. I have to take that condom off. A lot of times I'll even go to rinse off or something. Right. So there's a lot of
interchange.
Right. So stop, go.
Yeah.
And especially, with the, ED thing, that can be difficult too. There's been several times where I'm having a blast. It's oh, now I gotta go change the condom and rinse off.
And now it's get hard.
Now it's oh, now I gotta get hard again. Right. Yeah. Now there's, sometimes you start in a playroom and there's nobody in there. And then once the orgy usually starts, and the looky-loos start showing up. And now there's 20 people in here just standing around looking. And now I got to try to get hard again. So there's some distraction there, too.
There's where the trap
Yeah. I have not used that.
You've never used
Never used
it was like 2 or 3 hours of whatever you want to do. Whoever, look, you go to 90%.
Yeah.
Try me 95.
So the bigger the orgy, the further apart we can get. And there have been times where, like, he's wanted to see me do something, but there's
people in the way. Like, I hear Lacy making good noises, but I can't find her in the crowd. Yeah.
Somebody's on his face.
Yeah. And then at the end of the night, like,
how was your orgy? Oh, mine was good. How was yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, that can really be a
I mean, the worst case
to connect through eye contact and be able to see each other.
I do
feel
like
separate room play.
It can be almost like that if there's that.
Especially if there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you're on, like, multiple beds and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, if I know that you're having a good time, I want to at least for a little watch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And and it's hard to do that and then also focus on whoever I'm with at the time.
Lacy's literally yelled at me. Look at me, I'm right here.
Yeah.
Because he was
They're distracted by their wife. Yeah. And like they literally stop, and she's like,
I'm here.
I'm doing work here.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of, we have certain couples that are friends of ours that are very much like hot wife couples.
Yeah.
And so, like, the husband, 90% of what he gets out of it is watching his wife.
Yeah.
So sometimes he'll literally stop to watch his wife.
Like that kind of relationship
where you can say,
get off. Or, look at me.
Usually when I do that, I'll just take a break. So, I'm sweating. I need some water.
It's bad when you do that mid-stroke with the girl.
It's like that, what you're saying, like, I'm going to get some water and take a break. Like, if, like, maybe you want to be closer to her in an orgy, that's the time when you say that. Then you just move yourself, put yourself where you want to be. Yeah.
Another one thing that happened to us in the last one, we talked about this last night in our live session, but I'm literally, as you said, mid-stroke. And somebody taps me on the back. We're in the playroom at Hito, and somebody taps me on the back, and we're basically where we were in missionary position. I'm on top, and I look over, and somebody is squatted down by our little bed in the playroom, and they said something to me. And there's a lot of activity going on, and I didn't understand anything they said, and so now I stop what I'm doing. What did you say? And they said it again. Still didn't understand them. Now I looked at the face of the person I was still inside of. I said, "Did they say?" And she said, "I don't know." And I realized it was somebody had an accent. English probably wasn't their language. And now I'm in a conversation trying to decipher what somebody using English as a second language is trying to ask me in the middle of fucking another woman in the playroom. And so those kinds of things are the things.
But what they were asking was, could they join in?
Yeah. So they were trying to do the right thing.
Well, see,
mid-stroke's probably not that time to ask.
Right. I actually, and that's another one of the reasons I don't prefer them. I'm always worried that kind of thing is going to happen, but I really wish that especially in a playroom setting, you're not part of the group before you go in the playroom. I don't like somebody asking after they've got in the playroom. And now maybe if you're over there taking a water break and somebody comes up, but then what are you going to do is that somebody asked me, "Hey, can I join your group?" Well, am I going to go around then and ask everybody in the orgy? But
even like your friend group, I mean, that's different if you're like, you're used to being involved in it and stuff like that. What we're talking about is, and we've seen it several times, is the last time we were at Hito, somebody going bed to bed to bed to bed, and interrupting everybody's play.
They need to be
seeing if they can, and that's happened several times, and women will do it too.
Yeah.
And my big problem with that is, as somebody who for so many years was uncomfortable using my voice, is I probably would have said yes 2 or 3 years ago because
I probably did say yes.
Right. And wanted to say no and ended up in a situation that I resented or didn't want to be in. And so we're not big fans of people doing
Well, it's such a good point too, especially for people that might be listening to this that have never been in an orgy or have never opened their relationship up in any fashion. I know that when we first started, I had the idea that there is no way I will ever have sex with somebody I don't really want. There's no way I'll take one for the team. Any of those kinds of things that we tend to say. And if you've never been in it, you don't know how hard it is to sometimes say no to people. And I would imagine any of us that have been in this for a while have, to some degree or another, done all of those things.
We still do it. I mean, in some ways, I think, and that's a whole nother podcast episode, that taking one for the team thing. But I think in reality, we're all sort of doing that
all the time,
every event.
Right. Never going to equally be attracted.
The odds of you being equally attractive to another couple
is
or
so rare.
10 couples, is just not. That's not realistic.
Yeah,
somebody's always a little less attractive than the other.
But I say, and me and Lacy have talked about this a lot recently, is we've kind of switched our mindset a little bit. Is we used to very much be like, I'm not going to have sex with somebody unless I'm like super into them and attracted to them, and like it almost looked like, I think a lot of people look at engaging in the swinger lifestyle like you do dating, like, oh, if they're handsome and tall and I'd break them home to my mom and we have things in common. But the truth is, you don't really need all those things just to have sex with somebody, right? Like it can be a good experience without them checking every check mark on your list. So we've really, I'd say in the last year or so, tried to open up our minds, like, as long as we connect with them on something, as long as they're not disgusting, to me, you know what I mean? Like,
then
it's so good.
Here's the problem: if Dan says no to you, you know you're in the bottom 20%.
Oh, don't put that out there. I never thought about that.
Do some self-reflection.
But to your other point, about people bed jumping and stuff like that, we've actually had good experiences like that sometimes, where we've been on a bed, it's fucking one couple, and it's one of those big beds, and the couple next to us is like, are fucking, and all of a sudden the girl's like, hey, do you mind if I suck your dick while and then all of a sudden they're in the orgy, and then
you're fucking the guy that got the fight with it.
Yeah, that happened one time. But
you were fucking the guy?
No, the girl, but the wife of the guy.
Fight in the pool, and was screaming my ass, and then I looked over.
We started an orgy, and
the wife.
Why you're yelling?
No.
During the day.
It was later that they ended up on the same orgy bed as us, and we didn't know it. And then I ended up fucking her.
You didn't know who it was?
No idea. Yeah.
You didn't know who it was because it was dark? Or
no, he was not.
I never saw the fight.
Oh, yeah, my gosh.
He was something else, and he came back.
Yeah.
This motherfucker.
But they had already left. I never physically saw them.
Dan's like, his wife's.
Yeah, I looked over, and she was like riding that chick, and I was like, oh. And he comes up to get her water, and I was like, she does not get water. He's gonna get water.
Did you stop?
Yeah, I just went. So I knew what Lacy does, and just went to a different part of the bed. Like 20 minutes later, she's like, I thought you were gonna get me water. I was like, oh, I got distracted. He almost got beat up, and then
kind of. And so Dan, security came in, and Dan was off of security with that man, and some other guy came in and was like, y'all are making a big deal out of nothing. And so then that flew all over.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh no, motherfucker. Been drinking. So me and this guy were like, and it wasn't just me, it was like all of our group. Started screaming at him, and so he mouthed out, and then he saw like one of the other guys, and he was gonna like off him, He's like,
You're like, listen.
I was like, listen.
Not only are you wrong tonight, Dan is going to fuck your wife.
He called the mafia guy after that. Because he was kind of like, he's like, you don't know me. You don't know who you're talking to. Like, he's from Jersey.
Yeah, it was funny because on the podcast, I was like, he had to be from not in America. He was from Ohio. But I'm like, I get to get a sip of water, and I like turn around, and Dan's fucking her. I was like,
oh no.
To my defense, I tried to ask Lacy if it was okay, but she had all her parts were under the thing. Yeah.
She couldn't answer.
So she couldn't answer. And so because of the situation she was in, I just kind of assumed it was okay.
So that would be a con.
Sometimes actively communicating is difficult when all of your orifices are filled.
So the con is sometimes you can accidentally fuck them up.
And it happened because didn't the guy ask you?
He asked me.
Yeah, he said, "Can you suck your dick?" They were a very.
Wait a minute. The husband you yelled at?
Yeah. I don't think he realized who we were either. Yeah.
You guys have way better stories.
That's a fantastic story. Wow. She had a guy at the new. Who was arguably the Harry, like a back sweater.
Well, and he was pretty old. He was probably late 60s, early 70s, I would say. And so he probably has not been told.
Right.
You know, he's like an old-fashioned swinger.
People think, oh, they're old. He's okay. But he patted my butt as he was going down the stairs, and like it shocked me at first. And I turned around, and he was too far for me to say anything. And then on his way out, he went to do it again, and I grabbed his wrist. I caught his hand.
She was leaning over that what looks like a hot tub, but isn't.
Yeah,
And
I was sitting on the steps, leaning over, and I caught his hand, and I was like, "Oh no, sir, you do not touch me." And he was like, "Well, I was just telling you you have a nice ass." I said, "Well, you need to use your words.
Right, yeah.
Do not use your hand. You don't touch. No touch."
But she was not nearly that nice.
Yeah, oh,
it was
good.
very
Well, he needed
intimidating.
to hear it. But he kept trying to make excuses why it was okay, and I'm like, "No, this is never okay to touch somebody."
Was that the same trip that we had to carry an old man out of the pool to a wheelchair?
We did.
He got so drunk his legs stopped working in the pool.
Yeah, so it's interesting, I think it was on Bliss Cruise, we were talking to some people. They said in Europe, and I don't know if this is true universally in Europe, but they said, like, consent is implied until somebody actively says no. So if you're in a club in Europe, people will touch you until you say, no, that's not okay. So they almost assume they have consent,
Right.
Until you stop them and say, hey, no, I don't want to go. And then they'll stop. They're very, and this couple actually said they preferred that. They said, because what you will see is people are more things happen.
Well,
Right?
yeah, sure.
Everybody's, instead of people like kind of sitting back and waiting for the okay, people just kind of start, and then it just happens. And they said they actually really liked it that way. And I was like, that's a little
we had
strange to me.
Let's crazy. You sit and have dinner. So it's really fun to meet and find out
New
stories
people,
from people.
yeah.
And they said that they traveled everywhere, and they really loved that.
That's a little more like, so for me to get to explore my bisexuality side, go to a circuit, gay, all men circuit.
That's so much fun.
It's basically that same principle there. I mean, consent is just, if you say no, somebody's expected to leave you alone. But the first one we went to, we got in there. First of all, I'm sweating, just nerves, just cold sweat. I'm so scared.
In his jockstrap and harness.
In his jockstrap, so self-conscious.
But is it an orgy? Hold on.
I don't know. We weren't having sex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just dancing. Like they have the DJs, practicing.
But we got set up in
some of
we thought
them are having sex on the dance floor.
yeah, they'll fuck right out there on the dance floor. But I said, okay, we're here, we're settled. I had to take
what is it called? A circus?
Circuit.
It's
You should come with us to one of them. They're so much fun.
I'm just going to go and watch what happens.
We're actually sponsoring one in Dallas next May.
Oh.
That might be a 2080 party.
Yeah. You're saying there's a chance.
I was like, all right, I'm going. And it's kind of like the pool at Hito. You can't just walk straight there. You got to shoulder your way through the crowd, I bet for the first time in my life, this is the first time I'd ever been in a situation like that. My ass got grabbed 45 times on the way to the bar and coming back.
So he went to get drinks all night.
Do you love it?
I was thinking like the
He
long.
loved the attention.
Well, it is interesting. And part of what this couple said is, nobody slides their dick in you. They start with rubbing your leg or your back or your butt. So it's not like
gauging.
They're not just fucking you. Right. They're touching you, but they're gauging you and waiting for you to giving you an opportunity to say no.
Yeah.
So like you said, it sounds bad, but in some ways you're like, well, maybe that would be better.
Well, in an all gay male environment, it's different than if a bunch of guys are doing that to a woman. Safety.
But why?
Issues.
Why is it different?
Well, because there's safety and security issues, and so.
But not with. But couldn't there be safety and security issues with all men?
But it's not.
Well, yeah, there could be, but I think a lot more women have trouble saying no.
Yeah.
Because of the way society has been and the way.
Well, and a
we've
lot
been
more
raised.
women have been molested, have sexual trauma. It's almost always from a man in their childhood, and that stuff can be triggering. Whereas poorish guys, like 80%,
are like, touch me, please.
There's got a sign that says, "Grab my ass" as I walk by. So
it's interesting.
It's different at the all men's party.
Yeah,
and she just sits back.
I love it because nobody messes with me. I can dance all night long.
You have the opposite.
And
you can walk in the bar and nobody grabs your ass.
No, she said two things.
Because they thought it was true. So they're like, it's amazing. I was like, you should see me.
The first time some guy came up to her, and I think it was that same first party we went to, it made out and then walked off. And one of our buddies came up to April and said, "Do you know why he just kissed you?" She goes, "He thought you were a trans."
That's hilarious.
Like, look at me making dreams come true.
I did. I'm like, I don't care.
Was he good looking?
I don't remember. It was 7 a.m. at an afters party. Yeah. I have no idea. We had been dancing for like 18 hours.
All right. What any other big things that people should know if they're looking, they want to experience it for the first time?
I would say don't be afraid to go into the spaces where it's happening. So most clubs, if you go to the Hito or the cruise ships and stuff like that, you can go into the playrooms and stuff like that and just be an observer, just be a fly on the wall. So, if you are curious about orgies and things like that, and you just want to experience the environment, we actually encourage people that, if it's your first time at a club or something like that, just go walk through the playrooms and just see what's going on and kind of take in that environment. That can be sexy in itself. Or go into one of those spaces and maybe just find one of those beds that's off in the corner by itself and just kind of have fun with your partner and still be kind of in the environment of an orgy. That's kind of ways to take, I think, baby steps into that environment, but still, kind of be safe and not necessarily jump all the way in.
Yeah, and I think if you are newer and you're a little nervous, you could still go. Mm-hmm. You just need to communicate that to people around you. Like, this is our first time in this environment. We want to be here. We want to experience it. We're just going to play with each other for now. Or we just, we might join in, we might not. I think if you communicate that, I think people will be respectful. We had a vanilla couple join an orgy in the Splash because they really just wanted the environment. And so we just kind of put them like on the end.
Right.
So
we kind of protected them, put them in the middle, keep all the people around them so nobody,
That's great.
Yeah. So that way they could enjoy this and not have to be worried who's walking. So I think if you have friends and you just communicate that to them, I think you can still have fun and
I think it's a good point because I know when you first get started with any of this stuff, it's usually harder to use your voice, like we all talked about. And some of that it may be because we're scared that we're going to look like new people or inexperienced, but people actually appreciate that. If you've never been in one of these environments and somebody says, "Hey, look, this is our first time," not only are people not going to make fun of you, but they're probably going to, like you said, they're going to take care of it. They're going to be much more cautious.
For sure.
And it's, in some ways, it's not a turn on because somebody's new necessarily. It's a turn on for somebody to trust you enough to be vulnerable.
Right.
And so when you tell somebody that, and you should tell somebody that when you're new, it's going to enhance the experience for you and lessen the chance that problems.
Yeah, because if you don't tell them and then you get uncomfortable and somebody gets mad and rushes out of the room, then that's just the whole thing. Right. If you were just honest, like, we just started, we're new, we don't know what we're doing.
Right.
Somebody will take you under their wing.
And we've all been there. Yeah. We've all been.
And I love, like you're saying, I love that energy. Seeing somebody experience something for the first time, even if you're not engaging with them, it's hot. You know what I mean? Right. It's like seeing somebody eat like a good piece, trying a new food for the first time that they've never had it before, and it's really, really good. Like just seeing somebody experience that is very rewarding for me. So I really enjoy that.
We have a friend who they started in the lifestyle. It took them a year to full swap. They really took baby steps, and they finally full swap with somebody, not us, but another couple. And the next day, Dan was sitting with the husband. I was
sitting with him in the cabana beside the pool. He's looking out at the pool, and he said, "I can fuck all of those women." Yeah. I was like, easy, bro. Only 80. Not 100. You never go 100. Like he had that like awakening moment. He's like, wait a minute, I can fuck everybody here. It's like, well, you gotta ask the permission first, but yeah, as long as you and your wife are cool, yeah, it's like you can fuck 20.
I think like just that energy, that like it's like almost like brings that energy back to us. Yeah. So I enjoy that. That's fine.
Well, maybe we may have to try one again someday.
Well, I mean, it's not off of our list.
It's never been off.
And also, if you want to practice using your voice, because I think sometimes you need to, going to a playroom like with your husband, and because people will approach, like let's say me and him are just going to play by ourselves, and maybe we're on the bed with the sheer curtain, so like usually people will peek in. You'll get people that will ask. They'll come around, and like I'll say, okay, tonight I'm going to tell them, thank you. That helps.
Yeah. It does. Yeah.
Be like, okay, that was okay. I did it.
Yeah.
I think that's like, no, but like
we did it on Bliss Cruise one time. We went to a playroom, just me and her, and we're like, we're just going to fuck. Anybody asks, we're just going to say no. We must add 10 couples out, and every time we're like, no, thank you. No,
You
thank
have to develop that voice because it doesn't come easy, for sure.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Well, you guys have so many events that you guys are doing. We're so grateful that you guys joined us today. But before we get into some of your other events that are coming up, tell us, I'm going to put you on the hot seat for a second, because you guys are everywhere.
Yeah.
You're doing events, you're on TikTok, you have OnlyFans, you have all the things. What are some common misconceptions that people may have about the two of you, or you can answer individually?
I think people think that we do this like for money, like with the swinging part. And the truth is the money comes from OnlyFans, and that doesn't really have, I mean, we do swap with other couples, but the hosting the parties and like our Discord and that doesn't make it money for us. That's just like
A labor of love.
it helps promote my OnlyFans. It promotes my podcast. But yeah, it's definitely like.
Well, even in the podcast, I mean, we've been podcasting for 3 years. I think really in just the last 6 months, we started making what you would consider serious, other than like $100 or something a month, like, serious money. It's really been like in the last 6 months to a year. But yeah, I think most of our community work, so like the Discord, the parties, we do a lot of advocacy work and things like that. Most of that is just because we care, we care about the community. We wanted to be safe places. We thought, we went to a lot of parties and we're like, this really isn't our scene, but we could see this is fun and we want to make our scene, make our crowd, make our party.
Well, and that's, and it can be frustrating when because there's a lot of work that you guys put into those events. And we know
I'm going to quit events all the time, like all the time, to be honest with you. I would much rather not throw events and just go and have fun.
Right.
That's definitely more his thing. But I do enjoy them. And
it's a lot of work, a lot of hours, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that people don't necessarily see.
But I think because what you're saying, people see us so much everywhere. And I think they do think like these people are selling the lifestyle and they're using this community to profit. And in reality, if we fully focused on OnlyFans, we could probably make a lot more money than what we're making right now. Most of the swinger stuff and the community stuff is just because we care about it. We want
there's also no reason people should begrudge you making money off it. I mean, look, you're putting on events and it takes, somebody thinks, oh, you just load up some speakers and go, open up the pool. That I can tell you there are hours and days upon days of work that goes into that stuff. And the people that are coming to those events are benefiting from the hard work.
Right. Nobody's getting mad at NFL players saying they sold out football to make money, right? Like, you're like, oh, you guys are the pinnacle. You've worked hard to get there. You put the work, like you should get paid. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's okay for somebody to earn a fair living off of doing hard work. And this stuff is just not easy. And if it was, everybody would do it. And just like you say, there's times I just want to quit. There's so much work and aggravation and complaints.
And every event, somebody's pissed off.
Right.
Every event.
Right.
Like there's always an issue.
Yeah. And people come to your event. They want to talk to you. There's 200 people there.
Yeah.
How are you going to get to 200 people?
And I've gotten that a lot. Dan doesn't. I think this is a thing. I think it's like a female thing.
I think so too.
But that I'm a bitch. I struggle with anxiety. I struggle, especially social anxiety in those settings. I try really hard to push through, and I would say 80% of the time I do fairly well. But that one time that I'm walking to the bathroom, somebody tries to stop me or something, or I'm not even paying attention and I'm staring.
Right.
I get talked about. So I hate that too. But I think that just kind of comes with the bigger you get. Not everyone's gonna like you.
Right. And what people assume, I think, because I'm also an introvert and I have anxiety too, they assume that because you have this platform that you're an extrovert and that you want to engage with everybody. Yeah. And sometimes, and we do this at Hito, I schedule time every day for just me to go back to my room by myself to decompress because I cannot be on all of the time. And so a lot of people don't know that. Yeah. And so like you kind of getting anxiety and stuff like that, people may perceive you as being a bitch when it's like, I'm a human.
Yeah.
You cannot be on 100% of the time.
And it's fucking exhausting.
It is exhausting.
I mean, you carry on unique conversations with 30 people in one night. Yeah. And it's like you've been in a 4-hour chess match.
Yeah. With everything else that you have going on.
And actually watching behind the person to make sure that somebody's doing what they're doing, or this person.
Sound system's working, the lights are working, the doors are unlocked that are supposed to be. Is so much.
Yeah.
We've also got that we're not real swingers. We met on SLS. I don't know how much more we're swingers.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
SLS
No.
I know what SLS is because we've been kicked off of them.
Okay.
But, yeah,
I didn't even know we were
yeah, I know. But I mean, what does it even mean you're not
Not
a
real, yeah.
swinger? Because there's so many. I mean, that's
You can
just
swing once a
nonsense.
year if you're a swinger.
Right.
You know? I mean, like,
It's just silly things that you shouldn't have to address. But that's
Well, what
kind of
shows
the price that you pay, right?
What's your next event?
So our next event is the 13th and 14th of December in Louisville, Kentucky. We're doing a Swinger Society Takeover Club.
it's a cool club if you've never been there.
We're hoping to get to make that.
It's like 2-story, and then it has like even this like one little spot that like goes. I mean, there's so many playrooms. It's so cool.
Y'all drive there?
We do because we
Bring
use
the trailer with all
Oh, that's right. You can bring equipment.
Yeah.
That's not, how far is it?
Like 3 hours.
From here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3, maybe 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not bad.
So it's just over the Tennessee line? Yeah, we should go.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's a really cool club.
So for anybody else that's going to that event, Scott and April will be hosting our own orgy. It's called the 80% orgy. Dana will be monitoring. He'll be gatekeeping the room for us.
You know what's funny is we have never played in the room at Tintin.
No, they're always full.
They're always
Oh,
full.
really?
We kind of have to play late because we make sure the party
Yeah.
basically finish. Like around midnight, I feel comfortable. Like, okay, let's go.
Things are
Yeah,
going
yeah.
smooth.
I say rooms. They have multiple.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we have a lot. So, but they have VIP areas, multiple different, and you could fucking host.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we
So
end up
it's
going back to a
pretty cool.
VIP
Somebody
because
has
all the
a
playrooms are full.
Yeah, you're like, we're going to use your VIP for a second.
Yeah,
That's similar to the setup that Trapeze has in Atlanta in their VIP room.
yeah, it kind of.
More Red Room kind of more where it's just
Okay.
like tables
Yeah,
and
you
booths.
don't
that
have
are-
to like, enter a code to get through the door. You just have like an armband, and usually the guard walks away.
Just sneak it.
Or we sneak in there. Don't do that though. Don't do that.
Don't recommend. Well, tell everybody how they can find you, how they can get tickets to your next event coming up.
Yeah, so if you want to follow us on TikTok, social media, and follow us basically anywhere, you can go to theswingnation.info. Theswingnation.info has all our social media, but then our events and all that are on swingersociety.net, swingersociety.net. We got an event pretty much once a month for the next year.
And next year we're going to Texas, Miami,
Bliss Cruise,
both Bliss cruises.
Naughty New Orleans, all the things.
And you guys have, what is the Discord group up to now? 40,000?
45, I think,
Wow.
1,000 people in there.
Yes, if you want like great conversation and a whole bunch of people that are like-minded.
And it's free.
Completely free.
And
Yeah,
it's
there's
free.
no
Yeah.
fee for that.
That's amazing. You guys do really great things.
Well, that is, we have to like give credit to. We have like a whole community of people that run that.
There's over 100 volunteers that run our Discord
Wow.
server.
And they work like full-time jobs and then do this as
They
well.
volunteer.
So
But they set up different, they'll have town hall meetings, they'll do different classes, they do like themes of the week and
Yeah.
different pictures, they raise money for charity. I mean, it's the whole
That's
thing.
fantastic.
If any of those 100 volunteers are listening and they want to volunteer,
For Naughty Jim.
we're taking out the pay is the same. Zero pay. We have a trip if you haven't booked a Hito or want to come to a little bit different type of Hito event. Ours is unique in that we have fun, educational seminars and classes throughout the day. We have some of the best presenters coming from 3 different continents, and it's such a great environment. Last year there was over half the people there was their first time at Hito.
Oh, wow.
And so if you're a newbie, it's a great environment, but we have all the same big parties and stuff at night. Our El Salvador trip in May is
And that's January 4th through the 11th.
4th to 11th, so hurry up.
2025, and you book straight through Hito. So it's a full resort takeover. So if you are booked at Hito during any of those weeks, you are considered part of our takeover. So we have a separate event app that has our full itinerary. It has a way to engage with the other attendees. We're doing virtual classes in there with some of our presenters, so you can kind of get to know them before you arrive. So just shoot us a message, naughtygymonline@gmail.com, or you can DM us on any of our social media platforms for more information on that.
Our El Salvador trip in May is sold out, but last night we announced in our community that our third trip next year is called Holidays.
Yeah, Naughty Gym Smoky Mountain Holidays. And that is November 1st through the 6th. And this is 16 rooms only. We've got a giant cabin in the Smoky Mountains. And so you can find that on our website, naughtygym.com. And
We're actually
is going to be open by the time this podcast is released.
It's going to be, the whole cabin is going to be decked out with Christmas lights. First night, we're going to have a Halloween party. Then there's going to be a Thanksgiving the next day. We're going to have catering brought in. And
yeah, we're going to do Halloween, Friendsgiving, Christmas, like Dirty Santa.
Christmas Eve, Christmas.
And New Year's Eve.
And we're going to have we're going to have Dirty Santa. So, yeah, a lot of adult twists on classical holiday season.
Sounds fun.
naughtygym.com. All right, Dan and Lacy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
For those of you tuning in, remember to never stop playing.